Welcome back, everybody. Well, on any given night in this country, an estimated 235,000 people live in homelessness. But what are Canadian organizations and officials trying to do to address this crisis?
Our next guest says a newly developed housing initiative doesn't just talk the talk, but it walks the walk when it comes to preventative and supportive measures. Nation Cheong, Vice President of a Community Impact at United Way of Greater Toronto, is here to tell us more about 90 Done, a social medicine housing initiative. Nation, welcome to the show.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Yes.
So, listen, there are organizations and government bodies that are trying to do something to address this crisis, but this project, it's not just focusing only on housing security, but it's got a large focus on tenants' food, mental, and physical security. So what does life look like for these residents? What makes it different?
Well, let me start by telling you about the partnership. This is leveraging the best of our medical care, the University Health Network, the amazing folks at the City of Toronto that are dedicated to addressing this homeless crisis, and 70 years of United Way's investment as the second largest funder to government in a vital network of social services, and bringing those three things together around the needs of folks who have complex issues, mental health, substance dependency, and the trauma of living on the street anywhere from a year to half a decade to a decade. Wow. So the social medicine initiative takes one key principle. To get folks off the street and to keep them off the street, you have to address their clinical needs and their social needs under one roof. To meet that is the formula for success. And so that's what this initiative means for those 51 individuals.
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's amazing.
And United Way played a big part in sort of developing the idea of the community kitchen. In what way is it an integral part of the housing initiative?
Well, I was enjoying your previous conversation. I would say, when you go over to your best house party or family party, where do you gravitate to?
The kitchen.
The kitchen, indeed. The kitchen is that place that's primal for us. It's the place of warmth. It's the place that brings you together, where we tell each other stories, the place where we reinforce our values as a community, and the place where we nourish our bodies and minds. So the kitchen is integral to the well-being and the opportunity for these individuals to grab a hold of this opportunity and embrace the transformation that is in front of them.
Okay. So this housing initiative has room for 51 people.
Yes.
Which looks like a drop in the bucket when I say 235,000. Like, would this actually translated to 0.5% of the homelessness population? So why the limited capacity? Is it just a function of resources?
So let me first acknowledge that the challenge we have as a society in Ontario and Toronto is enormous.
Yeah.
51 individuals with complex needs requires a comprehensive support system. This isn't just you and I moving from our apartment to another apartment. These are individuals who need intense supports, clinically and socially, to transfer from the mindset that it takes to survive in the streets into a new environment, and just relearning new habits and reconnecting socially with folks. So 51 is a number that is manageable given the intensity of supports that is required for those individuals. And it creates enough space that you don't have a high concentration of individuals with complex needs, because then that becomes a challenge to the staff and the folks working in that space, right? So 51 is a nice, manageable number. It also is associated with the modular housing and the ability to get modular housing up very, very quickly.
Ooh, that's good news, modular housing. A recent report found that chronic homelessness costs the Government of Canada an estimated $35,000 per person each year through inappropriate housing like jails, temporary shelters, and hospital emergency departments. So how does a housing initiative, you spoke to it a little bit, how does that look in terms of cost?
Well, I think of two ways to answer your question: the social costs and the economic costs. So the social costs of not addressing this is seeing more and more of our neighbors, our community members who are in very desperate situations. The ability to walk down King Street and at the King of Bay see someone who is covered in a tarp or boxes or layers of blankets. The question is, what is that doing to us socially as a society? What happens to our collective psyche to walk by that day to day? The economics of it, you think about a hospital stay for a month is about $30,000. Wow. A month in prison. Nobody thinks that homelessness should be criminalized. But if you were to put these folks these human beings into the the prisons, that's about $10,000. This initiative the cost is anywhere from $35,000 to $4,000. That's 1/10 of the cost.
Wow. Right.
And we're not even talking about the cost of first responders, who every time someone is seeing someone in crisis on the street, you call 911, that's automatic, somebody's in trouble. The ambulance has to show up, the fire engine has to show up, the police have to show up. And that's on a day-to-day cycle. That's a cost on our tax base. So why not invest long-term and build the modular housing and create these integrated clinical social supports, leveraging this vital network of social service agencies to meet the needs of these folks who are looking for hope, looking for an opportunity to change their lives.
Yeah, I mean, we're
incredible.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we talk about trying to, manage the homelessness crisis, whether it's this city or beyond, a lot of times it's just, let's reduce the numbers, let's get people off the streets. But in fact, it's not just that you say that it's actually preventing people from landing there in the first place is so important. So how do you do that?
Yeah.
Why is that important?
It's a big question, and I think there's a lot to that answer. The living cost in the GTA is beyond exorbitant right now. Teachers, nurses, basketball coaches are struggling to pay rent, to put food on the table, and to maintain stability. We already have too many people who are living in the shelter system and put a strain on our shelter system. It's leading to encampments. So there's a two-prong approach that's required. While we have to pay attention and invest in the right pathways to get folks off the street, into transitional housing, into stable housing, we need to protect rental apartments for folks. We need to talk about living wages so folks can actually keep up with the cost of living in the GTA. So that's the preventative piece. We can't afford to have more people coming into an already strained system. And so as citizens of Toronto and Ontario, we have to fight for the protection of affordable housing, affordable rental housing, where working class folks don't have to make tough decisions about good food, medication, or whether or not my kid can go to that soccer program.
Right.
That's unfair. So that's the preventative aspect, is ensuring we have the right stock of affordable rental housing, that we're talking about living wages for working class folks while we address this problem that's gotten way out of hand for us.
So, a lot of times when you see any kind of community housing project pop up in a neighborhood, the NIMBYism kicks in, right?
Sure.
Not in my backyard. Oh, I support it, but not in my backyard. What was the community's response with this project?
Yeah.
What's it been like?
What's been very heartening for me across Toronto, yes, NIMBYism exists, there's no denying that. When folks feel like they are part of the solution, when they're invited in to have good conversations around the planning of a project, as opposed to this is gonna happen, whether you like it or not, when that space is created for members of a community to come in and say, here are the things that need to be true for me. What I was heartened by was that everybody that was in those conversations believed that housing was a human right. Everyone believed that. They wanted to be part of designing what that space could look like. They wanted to be part of informing what they would want their experience in their community to be as they walked around that space and interacted with those folks. They wanted to make sure that the organizations that are in these communities, which United Way invests in year over year, were creating the welcoming environment for those individuals so they could be set up for success. So that was the experience that I had. And the key thing to that was leadership. We had political leadership, Councillor Gord Perks. We had the leadership of community service organizations. We had leadership of the University Health Network, the leadership of the City of Toronto.
Everything came together.
Making that happen. Yeah.
Listen, Nation, we've got about 30 seconds left, but can you tell us a little bit about the people who are living in the facility?
These are people, if I could just use a random name, these are folks I've worked with personally. These are individuals who want to be, they want their humanity to be seen. They want to be understood as folks who were a former construction worker. He slipped on a ladder. He broke his hip. He couldn't get back into work. He couldn't keep up his family. He turned to alcohol. He ended up on the street. These are folks who worked hard. They don't want to be stereotyped. They don't want to be demonized. They don't want to be criminalized. They want the community to rally around them. They want a sense of belonging.
Well, you have done that here. You've helped contribute to that right here today. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you immensely. We'll be right back. Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.